D&D Retro Review. Sorry about the long absence from my last video, but it's been a busy summer. I'm Captain Courageous, and I review old school modules, reveal fascinating trivia, and give tips on running these classic adventures in your modern fantasy campaign. This week, I'm going to talk about D3, Vault of the Drow. If you haven't already checked out my previous video review on the D series, D1 to 2, Descent into the Depths of the Earth, as well as my review on the G series, Against the Giants, you might want to do that now before watching this. Here's a link. Have fun, and then come back. Just a quick spoiler warning before we dive into this review. I will be revealing the inner workings of the Drow here, so if you are new to the game and unfamiliar with the Drow, or you're wishing to remain in the dark till after you've played the module, you might want to come back then. Otherwise, let's get started. D3, Vault of the Drow, was another tournament module release, and like D2, was originally released in 1978 at Gen Con 11. The module picks up right where Descent into the Depths of the Earth left off, with our intrepid band of adventurers traversing a massive, miles-long web of caverns and tunnels in search of the home of the Drow city, Irili Sinlu, after discovering that a Drow plot was the reason the giants had been invading their homelands. After navigating through the shrine of the Kawatoa and using the map dropped by one of the Drow way back in the halls of the Fire Giant King, the module once more descends into a series of random encounters. This time, the encounter table reflecting the fact that the heroes are getting closer to their ultimate destination, with Drow patrols and encounters far more likely. There are also some interesting fixed encounters, the most interesting being the run-in with a wonderfully naked succubus, Salusa, and her lover, a Drow vampire, Belgos, an obvious portmanteau for Bela Lugosi, who famously played Count Dracula. I can't help but find some amusement here, and that there is more plot hooks and story background in what is essentially a throwaway encounter than there is for the rest of the module. The lovers' reasons for being in the cave, their deep-known captive, and so on are all explored, and a creative DM could really have a lot of fun here, perhaps even developing a more comprehensive side quest and a more lavishly detailed concealed labyrinthine lair, which the module now describes as a small room and treasure cache, springs to mind. Either way, after some random encounters and side treks, the heroes finally uncover their final destination, the Vault of the Drow. And oh, what a sight greets the players. Gygax is at his descriptive best here, and certainly the immediate fascination for the Drow is understandable as the module provides this evocative description, using 3 different ways to properly view the city as the adventurers emerge from the cavern passage. Gary writes, "The true splendor of the vault can be appreciated only by those with infravision, or by use of the rosette lenses, or a gem of seeing. The vault is a strange anomaly, a hemispherical cyst in the crust of the earth, an incredibly huge domed vault over 6 miles long and nearly as broad. The dome overhead is 100 feet high at the walls, arching to several thousand feet high in the center. When properly viewed, the radiation from certain unique minerals give the visual effect of a starry heaven, while near the zenith of this black stone bowl is a huge mass of tumkeoite, which, in its slow decay and transformation to lack of sight, shreds a lurid gleam, a ghostly plum-colored light to human eyes, but with ultravision, a wholly different sight. The small star nodes glow in radiant hues of mauve, lake violet, puce, lilac, and deep blue. The large moon of tumkeoite casts beams of shimmering amethyst, which touch the crystalline formations with colors unknown to any other visual experience. The lichens seem to glow in rose madder and pale damson. The fungi grows in golden and red ochres, vermilions, russets, citron, and aquamarine shades. Elsewhere, the river and water courses sheen a deep velvety purple, with reflected highlights from the radiant gleams overhead, vying with streaks and whirls of old silver where the liquid laps stony banks or surges against the ebon piles of the jetties and the bridge of the elfin city for the viewer's attention. The rock walls of the vault appear hazy and insubstantial in the wine-colored light, more like mist than solid walls. The place is indeed a dark fairyland. Okay, wow. This is nothing short of epic, and the breathtaking immensity and the splendor of the Drow and their city should certainly be impressed upon the players. For the DM, Gygax also provides descriptive insights on the goings-on of the city. He writes, "The tiers and dungeons of Arelai Sinlu reek of debauchery and decadence, and the city's inhabitants are degenerate and effete. Those with any promise and ability are brought out of the place to serve the fighting societies, merchant clans, or noble houses. The rest are left to wallow in the sinkhole of absolute depravity which is Arelai Sinlu. The most popular places in the city are the gambling dens, bordellos, taverns, drug saloons, and even less savory shops along the two main streets. The back streets and alleyways, too, boast of brothels, poison shops, bars, and torture parlors. Unspeakable things transpire where the evil and jaded creatures seek pleasure, pain, excitement, or arcane knowledge, and sometimes these seekers find they are victims. All visitors are warned that they enter the back streets of the city at their peril." And there you have it. The rest of the module is basically a city description rather than an adventure. While one can laud praise on Gygax for his evocative prose, the vault's unique setting, and its introduction of a vast subterranean netherrealm, the module's real weakness is the lack of plot. There isn't one to be found here, so the DM will have to provide it, though certainly there is enough material presented to allow for many sessions of adventures within the dark fairy tale city of the Drow. Certainly the Fane of Loth is a viable endgame scenario, but, as presented, Loth is not the main antagonist here. It is Elclavdra, the Drow priestess of the elder elemental god, who, dissatisfied with Loth's domination of her people, that started this entire thing, and it's not even mentioned in the entire D series. Furthermore, it's entirely possible that Elclavdra met her demise at the end of G3, so her replacement in the House of Eilserves should be continuing their attempt to gain status and power through subjugation of the surface world. This plot thread is hardly even hinted at in the module, but stems logically from the information at hand. Furthermore, one also must realize that it is the will of the elemental god and House Eilserves, not Loth, that is responsible for the giant invasions. Yet the climax of the module is the confrontation in the Fane of Loth, and that ultimately leads to Q1, Queen of the Demon-Wed Pits, and a confrontation with the goddess herself. So, one has to ask then, why the heroes would take the near-suicidal task of going to the Fane and ultimately confront Loth in the Abyss. Shouldn't they be going after the elemental god? It's a good question, but you will not find the answer within this module, for the rest of it is dedicated to descriptions of the city and the Fane of Loth. Furthermore, Gygax's own words underscore the fact that the logic of the story is entirely left to the hands of the DM. On page 16 of Against the Giants, he writes, "While considerable detail has been given, it is up to you to fill in any needed information and to color the whole thing and bring it to life. You, as Dungeon Master, must continue to improvise and create, for your players will certainly desire more descriptions, seek to do things not provided for here, and generally do things which are not anticipated. The script is here, but you will direct the whole, rewrite parts, and sit in final judgment." My suggestion, then, is for the heroes to become enamored with the politics of the city. Certainly a direct confrontation with the powerful House of Eilserves will most likely result in the death of the PCs. However, it is entirely possible for them to be instrumental in the fall of the house. To me, this certainly offers a more exciting option with plenty of role-playing opportunities. surface dwellers in the chaotic city, attempting to prevent betrayal and tiptoe through the razor-edge machinations of the Dark Elves in order to prevent an invasion. Now, during all of this play, a reason to assault the Fane itself may be revealed. Perhaps, after the defeat of House Earlserves, Loth might wish to assume the conquest of the surface world, given that so much work has already gone into it. Perhaps the heroes learn that there are spies, agents, and turncoats within the Duchy of Jeff, and the names of these vile betrayers end up within the Fane as the Drow priestesses begin plotting this new conquest. The heroes are already there in the Drow city, and thus have an opportunity to nip this new invasion in the bud before it gets underway. And most importantly, learn the names of the traitors and spies before more lives are lost. Given the open-ended sandbox nature of the story, anything is possible at this point. Thus, a creative DM and a group of players could have a lot of fun with Game of Thrones type intrigue as they try to maneuver the forces of the elemental god and the forces of Loth into a confrontation, while trying to keep their true intentions secret and their heads firmly attached to their shoulders. Let me also suggest, if you can, that you get a copy, either physical or electronic, of Dragon Magazine 298 from August of 2002. In addition to dedicating that month's entire issue to exploration of the Underdark and the Drow, some valuable information on Arelai Sinlu is provided, as well as a few excellent color maps that will be invaluable to any DM running this module. Also, if you employ miniatures, you might find the Fane of Loth battle mat useful as well, and at the time of this writing, was still available for download on the Wizards of the Coast website. A link is provided in the description. My final thoughts about running this module are this. At the time of its publication, no one knew where the next module was going, and the information about the Drow was still in its infancy. 38 years later, that is no longer the case, and the resources available to the DM to run this legendary fantasy location is quite extensive. And I'll be going into some additional detail on this in my next video, which will take a look at Q1, Queen of the Demon Web Pits. Vault of the Drow was originally released with monochrome cover art by David Sutherland III, but the color re-release saw revamped artwork by venerable D&D artist Earl Otis. Sutherland's interior artwork was retained, as well as interior art from other D&D veteran artists such as Jeff D., David S. LaForce, David A. Trampier, and of course, Earl Otis. As with other modules of this series, you can get a digital copy relatively inexpensively at DriveThruRPG for around $5. A physical copy will run you between $10 and $20 depending on the quality of the copy and the seller. Well, that about brings this video to a close. I have a new batch of videos in the queue, such as the conclusion of this particular series with Q1, Queen of the Demon Web Pits, a full review of 5e Dungeons & Dragons, and another Call of Cthulhu review looking back at the classic module, Masks of Nyarlathotep. So please check those out. I always enjoy your comments and suggestions, and quite a few of them I'm going to be covering in the next few months. So please check out for more RPG retro reviews. Thank you for watching. Please share, tag, and post if you enjoyed. And as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true and game on.